Why, welcome to Arcturian Philosophy. We have a special channeling hour on Arcturian Philosophy because someone who hasn't been around in a while decided to come and say hello to me. And some people know who this is, other people might be new to the name, but it was one Howard Lotsof, essentially. Who was Howard Lotsof? Howard, he corrects me. He says I didn't invent it. I discovered the anti-addictive property. Some people mistakenly call him the inventor of Ibogaine, but he says no, I did not invent Ibogaine. Obviously, I simply discovered its anti-addictive properties. But what he came and he woke me up. And he said, Krista, I have to wake you up. And I said, why? You haven't been around in a while. What are you here to tell me? He said, you're doing the right thing. I'm here to tell you that you're doing the right thing, and it must be done. Now, what was he talking about? I had gotten the feeling, wait, with all of this going on, just like with nuclear weapons, with them needing to be destroyed, with what is going on with Ibogaine, the entire top is infiltrated. The entire top is also part of that, practically the top of the pyramid, as in they're not human. The personages that control most of Ibogaine are not human, and watched Howard Lotsof, the original discoverer, die so that they could take over and create this plot of world domination. Now, if you have an antidote to programming, something called Ibogaine, that's a rather valuable weapon to wield. So obviously, Jonathan Dickinson, you're a Pleiadian starseed, and you turned dark. Someone leading Gita, which Howard founded, Howard says no. And no one at this point, nobody, can tell me that what I hear is not correct at this point. What I did on August 20th warranted people trying to assassinate me left and right. So for whatever reason you wanted to assassinate me, it must be for some pretty damn good reason, huh? Well, Lenin says it's because you're fighting for peace. Howard says it's because you're fighting for peace, and it's exactly because of what you think it was. What Howard says is that I didn't want it to be this way. He says the first thing he says, I didn't want it to be this way. But what he told me was, do you remember I explained to you my work with Ibogaine as if it was a masterpiece painting? And I said to him, yes, I remember that. And he said, do you remember when you were imprisoned by one of our own? And I thought, yeah, by version of Marco. Yeah, I remember that. Do you remember they taught you about ripping, paintings, ripping things in the art class? And I said, yeah, I remember. And he said, well, I'd like you to take that masterpiece painting with my speech to you, that intention portrayed onto your sphere of reality, that masterpiece that I showed you as I stood there dying that day. I want you to rip it apart. And so, lots of things started to go in different directions in my mind, thinking, but what's going to happen? And he said, Krista, you've already thought of all of this. Everyone at the top is gone dark on you, except for, you've had suspicions about different people. Your suspicions are close to the truth, but the majority here, we're talking about all of our production and all of our main distribution, all of it's, you have to take out every single business. You have to. You absolutely have to. They're out of control. And that's him saying they're out of control, and you must stop them. The world wasn't in catastrophe before Ibogaine existed, he says, actually. And actually, it was in far less catastrophe before Ibogaine existed. And look at what you've done with the world. You claim to care about the world, now look at what you've done with it. Look at what you're doing with it. You claim to care about world peace, and you want to achieve world peace on the backs of slaves, so that you can sit back and laugh. Oh, and then when some star beings come and talk to one of your fellows, this one here, she can tell you exactly what it means, but you still try and tell her she's wrong. You still try and tell her, oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about. Well, now you know she knows what she's talking about. Oh, and he says, don't take Patrick personally. He's very frightened of you. He says you should watch the rest of Dune, and then you'll understand why he is so frightened of you. Because that's something I'm sorry, dude, I can't figure that one out. Can't figure out why would he be scared of me? I don't know about that one. Except if somebody asleep at their console up there, and I'm not. And so, what Howard says, it's very much like when you burned the book about the quote I care, which really was all, a combination of fiction and nonfiction, a combination of symbolism and such. Which the names that you idiots came up for that. Yeah, I noticed the second name. Yeah, like your cage, man. Cool. I bet it was cool when I burned the book to shreds. I know that it did something because, see, Howard told me, put all of the holy oils on the book. It can't stand them. Then you burn it in reverence not to the God of the Old Testament that you read mostly about, not the one that I was taught mostly about, the God that you know, the one that you have found here, the one that has kept you alive, despite all of these people worshiping a Hebrew type God, which is really Satan, people, putting 100 of people on one to you, trying to kill you, thousands of people on one to try to kill you, and they just can't. It's like Alex Collier said, you can be the candle or you can be the mirror. Now, as far as what wins with light, you see the candle, it's got light wherever it goes. But the mirror's got to follow the light around to try and get any light. See the mirror. So if you're playing mirror like Rachel out there, and Chris Jenks, and all of you guys, oh Dana, you don't like your life being in public. Uh-oh. You shouldn't have tried to screw me over. Whoops. But Howard says stop talking about that. And also, your daughter is very unsuccessful in murdering me. Yeah. What Howard says is, like the book that we had you place all of those biblical oils on and then burn, it's like this, where I want you to just take the picture in your mind and rip it apart. Just rip the entire thing apart. See the images piece by piece as they are ripped apart and burned. And then, when they go to their iboga groves, they'll see their roots shriveling. The trees themselves will protest. He says the trees themselves know what you're doing with them. The trees themselves know. And the trees themselves will protest, as if you think they already haven't been protesting. He says, you've been wondering why it's so hard to grow iboga? Have you not figured that out? And actually, I didn't know any of this. He's saying this right now. He's saying that iboga's become so hard to grow, or so hard to germinate, so hard to keep it to keep it going. Why do you think so? The tree itself is protesting what you are doing to it. The tree itself is protesting being passed through the hands of slaves. The tree itself is saying no. And he points out, he says, the consciousness of the inventor, or of the discoverer of a method, so his intention, he says, projected out upon the world, changed the face of the earth. So he says, Krista, you have the same thing, and you don't have to be a Yael to do it. Look at me. Look at what I did. You don't have to be something other than human to do this. In fact, you'll be able to do this because you're human. Him projecting out the intention changed the entire world, and he said, Krista, you are going to change history. You already have. They're trying to cover that up, but you already have changed history. But there's a lot more history that you're about to change. Your story isn't up yet, and as I've heard, it's set in crystal, you could say instead of set in stone. We say that. We're going to change that phrase, and we're going to say set in crystal or whatever, because whatever this is with me, it is very much a completely set kind of thing, that no matter how many things anybody who looks into their mirror saying mirror, mirror on the wall, like BS, because they need the reflected light, because they're not using the real deal and sold theirs away. He says, Krista, because of this fact that you stood up to so much temptation, you stood up to so much, you have more yet still to stand up to. You know that. But compared to what you stood up to, compared to the other people, you have done so much more honorably, if they want to characterize it that way. Jonathan Dickinson is a sellout. He's not saying it quite as angrily as that, but he's upset. He says, I thought that I was passing on this legacy to Jonathan to take care of what I had begun, but I knew something wasn't right. I knew that there were people lying to me somehow, and at the end, you saw I was in so much pain I couldn't even do anything about it, and I said, yeah, that was why I tried to go away as soon as I said thank you to you. And he said, no, the reason that I stopped for just about everybody, but that doesn't mean I didn't notice something particular about you. I noticed that you cared. So many would come up to me and express their gratitude and hang off of my coattails, practically. But you came up, you expressed your gratitude, and then you clearly backed away, bowing your head to say, please go on your way, sir. No one else, once they were in my presence, would think like that. They would think along the lines of, now, he's saying, now I know. The way they were thinking was, I'm going to get this guy on my side, I'm going to befriend this guy, and then I'm going to figure out how to be rich, or I'm going to get his secrets or something. And now he can see this vast picture, seeing, wow, within 6 months of my death, the only person who is still in the Ibogaine community, who still has the ability to influence it because of what she has been through, there was only really one person who actually knew that I was on my deathbed, because I did. I could feel it, while all of you people apparently didn't know he was going to die. I knew that, oh man, this guy doesn't have long to live at all. That's why I was there, to see him, because I could feel it, that he had exerted extreme energy trying to write his invitation to please come for an award. Nobody else could apparently tell that, or you only knew that if you were on the inside. Well, you know what? I didn't need that. I could feel it. And he says, you were pretty much the only person who approached me like that, and it was clear that you did not have any kind of agenda talking to me. You just wanted to say thank you, and that was it. he says after what he'd gone through, he pulls up the Chris Jenks analogy. He says this is just like Chris Jenks. This is like Jenks getting kicked around in a billion different places, but still holding on a semblance of control, but still being completely kicked around while people laugh at him. He says, that it was like that with me, and the same type on the Enneagram, like same type. But regardless of what happened when I was alive, I see now what is going on in my death. I see all of this, and I want it destroyed. If you guys can't figure it out, the world was a better place practically before Ibogaine even existed back in the 70s. And this is the world you're going into? Well, my masterpiece is not going to be a part of that world. If you guys are going to have this a part of my world, you're going to show it. But he says that it's going to be as if it's going to happen in Africa or something, that people's crops are going to just start failing. When your crops fail, when there is famine in your land, when you practically come up to tend your groves or trim your roots, and the trees are on fire. The trees themselves revolt. He phrases it that way for many of you that are more spiritual. He says the trees themselves revolt. It is not even just my intention as the inventor or as the discoverer to stop it, to put an end to it, but the trees themselves see what goes on, and the trees themselves are revolting against your actions, against what you are doing. The trees themselves revolt, as if you didn't think they were conscious too. Oh, the Iboga spirit. Oh, well, did you notice the Iboga spirit is a little pissed about what you're doing? The Iboga spirit does not really think that any of that's cool. To use it as a mind control mechanism. Yeah, the Iboga spirit doesn't really like that. So, Howard, do you have anything else for us to say? Oh, he says a prophecy about you will come true, and you know about it. Again, reminding me, don't take Patrick personally. He's scared to death of you. Okay. Patrick, or not Patrick, Howard, okay, are any of these people in foreign countries going to, are they going to actually figure out they're doing something wrong? And he says, you know one who it is too late for. Okay, I do. But you know that what the problem with that is. With the one who it is too late for, they hold great power. Oh yeah, I've noticed. They were sitting outside in a different gray body, with blue eyes, and asked me, what do you want, in Dalek tone, and I said, what do you want? My first time ever seeing an alien, for God's sake. And I sit down and I hear, you mean you're invited to the coolest, like a human talking, you mean you're invited to the coolest club in the world and you don't want to join? And I just suddenly backed away and I said, what? Did you just fucking say that to me, man? What? What? Did you want to be a part of the coolest club and you don't want to what? You're talking about world domination. Are you crazy? This is what Howard thinks too. Which is why he says this is why they watched me die. But you're still alive. And you could hear me. You were the only one. And we're going to change history with you. But then I sit down and say, what? Whoever was talking, I think I know who was saying that, but I won't say. And I'm like, excuse me, did you just fucking say that? Did you just say that to me? You're invited to the coolest club in the world and you don't want to join? That's what you're calling your screwed up pyramid thing? Seriously? So I sit down in this exact position where I'm sitting right now, and I was holding a torch lighter in this hand. And so I was sitting there, and I kind of looked over like that, feeling as if there was a presence in the room where you see our fireplace here. And I was holding the torch lighter, and I thought to myself, hey, you still didn't tell me what you wanted, whatever you little alien thing outside is. You little alien thing outside, you didn't tell me what you wanted. And right there, as I was holding the torch lighter, the front part broke. So it looked like this, like that, right? And then I heard in my mind, shoot you. And just word to the wise, any Arcturian that gets himself stuck in that situation with a gray or a yell species type, the best thing to do is literally like, oh my god, wow, that just happened in front of me, look. That was how I reacted, and nothing, nothing happened. I was like, I've got this torch lighter, right? That I think I ended up throwing the thing away because you keep this stuff around, It holds negative energy, and plus the torch lighter was broken. I couldn't use the thing, and I wasn't about to keep it around as evidence to create further openings. To see, look, this looks like a gun. Oh, let's show you more guns until we get an opening to shoot you. Yeah, right. For anybody, yeah, that would make sense to the Dune people, or to any other people who are understanding of these kinds of things. So I throw out the torch lighter, but think, wow, you broke my freaking torch lighter, but that was really cool. I'm sitting here on this planet, and that thing, the little Yoda, little gray-colored Yoda with blue eyes tells me, like, I want to shoot you, and I'm like, what? Okay, kind of failed, man. Kind of failed. Whatever. But in that sense, Howard also repeatedly tells me, you're a genius, you're a genius. And I say, well, yeah, I was, back when I was younger, sure, I was, but not anymore. And that's where he would interrupt. He says, that's where you're wrong. That's what people want you thinking. Remember, as long as you are thinking that you have lost that kind of capacity that you were born with, as long as you are thinking that, remember what book you wrote. You wrote a book called Will to Power, so do it. That was me, the Will to Power stuff, but not the whole book, 'cause the book got edited, terribly, and wasn't exactly everything that I actually wrote, or most of it was not what I really wrote in it. So, if you have yourself thinking, oh, this happened to me, I can't fix it, he says instead, think of the child who had done nothing wrong on this planet. Think of the child that was born into some completely bizarre situation and did not really understand why it was so bizarre, because they were caught at the hospital as a brilliant indigo child who was a major threat to the system. So what do we do with those? We try to disable them. We try to keep them out of college. We try to keep them from changing anything. Now, fortunately, it doesn't matter. With college, it doesn't really matter, because you're soon going to learn that you need student loans for college, and that you never are going to be able to pay them back, because that's part of the New World Order agenda. That's part of Agenda 21. So Howard says, see, you've actually got yourself in a pretty good position here, compared to where you would have been when this happened. You would have had no idea what was going on. You might have been doing a doctorate thesis at Princeton, sure, but you wouldn't have been happy. You wouldn't have known what was going on. You wouldn't have been talking with me. I would have died either way, regardless of whether or not you knew about it. These things still would have been happening, but would you have been on the side of the light on the side of the dark, or would you have been a confused person still? And I thought to myself, well, I'm willing to bet I would have been a confused person, or I would have gone to that dark side everyone going to. And he says, yeah, see, and see how things worked out better, much better now, in this version of reality. So he says in this version of reality, all of you guys making your living off of Ibogaine, it's going to fail. And he says, definitely don't believe her so that you don't make any kind of contingency plans, because I don't want you to. He's saying, I want all of this to completely fail, to the point where you have to go to this girl and you have to say, excuse us, would you stop hacking our reality? And she's going to look at you and she's going to say, oh, you mean you people that were trying to assassinate me? You mean you people that were trying to call me crazy over this? Oh, and also, Howard says, you know that that those biblical oils did something to that book that they were hoping would screw you up. You know those biblical oils did something to that book in the ceremony I told you about. Because the I could actually find it here. The packaging that the ancient oils of Scripture, it's from the Young Living Ancient Oils of Scripture, that the packaging, where I woke up at one point, it had been thrown at me, along with a notebook thrown at me, written by Rachel Jenks, of strange things to harm me or otherwise, like, screw me up or something. But Howard said, see, all you did to Rachel is write down, watch who you're messing with. You didn't try to do anything back to her. You didn't, what you did was save her life. What you did was actually change the timing of when she would have been in an opening to leave. You changed that. You, not only that, you brought the medication that you knew she was going to need because of your psychic ability. And, oh, wow, now look, we've got everybody, turning to the dark side. We've got Dad, who already turned to the dark side, who's not even called Dad anymore, who thinks that he can be a chemist while still doing this and somehow do it ethically, or Malcolm, and Simbu Sisu. Yeah, you two frickin' fucks who tried to lock me in a room. According to Malcolm, this help people. Oh, well, Malcolm, is it going to be helping you when you have Ebola and you've died? How are you going to take care of your family that way? Anwar, is this going to be helping you when literally all of your treatments begin to fail? Is this going to be helping you when all of your shipments, Bob Cisco, become intercepted? And when the people in France steal way more than just 40 barrels of whatever, or 40 crates of whatever? Howard says this is a very intricately linked system, like a spider web. He describes this as a spider web of channels and networks, and he says, from the center, I'm the center, Krista. Someone with a lot of power wants to be the center, pretends to be the center, but they're not. And you know why I have even more power? Because I am human, looking across from the veil, and you're human there on the ground. And you saw all of this, and you understand it. And so it has to go. Just like with the ETs saying you have to destroy your nuclear weapons, this is a weapon of programming. Ibogaine has become a weapon of programming, and those of you that actually do it to detox anybody do the worst job I have ever seen. And yes, I can say that to every single one of you, global, after what I've seen. Where's your blood pressure cuff? I don't know. Do you know what this person's pulse is? What? Hello? Are you helping this person? I mean, it's like lobotomy. Did a lobotomy happen to you? It's almost like that's like Howard put that word in my head. It's like a lobotomy. It's like they've had lobotomies. But for the most part, it seems like he stays pretty mild mannered. He also says the last thing is, my wife knows that you did try to at least sort of get the message across. That I love her. Basically, that she was the most beautiful person that he ever saw. And that she had self-esteem issues or something, but that he said, you should not ever be thinking about that because you're still the most beautiful woman that I'd ever seen or laid eyes on. But he said the message isn't really being received in the way that I'd hoped. And then he says, none of this happened as I hoped. I mean, think about it. How are people supposed to believe that you're actually talking to me? How are they supposed to actually believe that until you can actually do obvious things like levitate crystals? Well, I'm going to have to be doing that then. But what he says is, when everything fails, and the elders, they will speak of a white woman in the Americas, in Northern America, who is doing this. They will speak of a white woman who is causing all the crops to fail. That includes Voakanga. That there's a white woman who is, quote, placing a curse, as he's saying. They may think of it that way, that there's a curse upon us. But in whatever modality that they work in, he's saying they're going to try to see, as in seers almost, try to see this, but they're going to see you, and they're going to see the huge angels standing around you, even though you can't see them. And they're going to come back and say, this cannot be a curse. The woman with this, she has the angels with her of the ancestors. This is something that is divine. This is something that is divine. And so all the swindlers and, shysters are going to be trying to screw around with the whole thing. But the different people of different tribes that are witty are going to get some kind of like zap in the head. Not literal zap in the head, but kind of a wireless sort of transmission that, okay, this is, yes, that which is of divine, and it's actually the tree itself is protesting. She protests, but she protests with the founder of all of this that we worked with, but it is the tree itself that protests. See, Howard's not willing to take chances here, people. I said to him, is there a way? Is there a way to talk sense into these people without completely taking out our industry? I mean, is there any way to do that? Is there any way to get through to these people that what they're doing is ultimately killing the planet, no matter what they think? That it is a toxic state of mind. If you are using slaves to make your Ibogaine, if you're paying them a wage that they clearly can't support themselves, so that they have to hang on your every word, which happens all over South Africa, and I know now in every single production, every single professional production, that's pretty much how it's done. Or if it's Canada, they just get treated like shit and are all possessed by it, because next to Montreal, right? So possessed by lots of demonic whatever. I asked Howard, come on, is there a way to figure this out at all? Do we have any way? And he said, basically, it was after the one that said, what do we want to do? Shoot you? After that, he said, no, we lost the chance for that. And it was more, I think, more so with him. I don't think he actually expected that kind of thing out of Marco. I really don't. He was the type of person who wanted to see the good in everyone, he tells me. So when he saw finally, okay, he's gone like all out on this girl, and she ends up having to survive him trying to give her um, resistant strains of different bacteria, or to make her barren or something, so that she cannot further this true cause. Which, in the future, just so you guys know, Ibogaine won't have to exist, because we won't need it. That's the other thing. What's a great way to evolve? Oh, have your antidote taken away from you. That'll force you to evolve or die. And so he said, nope, we don't have a way to save the situation. We have to take everything out. The way that everyone was flying over you after you intercepted the nuclear war, the way everyone was watching you flying over and such, and them all following you like that. And I said, yes. Well, it's just going to have to be this way. When they finally see what is happening, and he says, remember, it was 1 year ago that he first started talking to me, and everyone said she's nuts. Now it's a year later. Now, no one can say she's nuts. Nobody can say I'm nuts. After all of you attempted to assassinate me and I'm still alive. Oh, yeah, you can't say I'm nuts anymore. Because, those numbers. Oh, I did the numbers, man. The numbers work out. But, yeah, according to the side of light, there are things that I understand that go beyond any type of equation that you could write, and that is part of why I would hold so much power. Also, self-identifying as a human, despite having extraterrestrial DNA. That also, it has to do with your intent, and see, those are things that you can't lie about. You cannot lie about what you truly believe. So Howard says, truly believe in my painting. You did truly believe in my painting, and I saw it in your eyes how much you believed in making that painting great. But now look at what's happening. This is far beyond Ibogaine. He says, this is far beyond Ibogaine, and the idiots dawdling around with Ibogaine are not even thinking about the global picture. They're not even thinking about how their world is being taken over and they're fighting over their supply of root bark. What? They're fighting over their Voakanga method and the world is being taken over? Hello? Also, well, he says they made deals with them. Deals with all the various suppliers, these reptilian entities, these demonic thought forms, whatever came off better to the person at the time. He said whatever they sensed the person would receive better. So say some of you guys thought that you were being approached by some kind of angel that turned into Satan, or some of you thought that you were being approached by a green lizard, or some of you thought that you, I don't know, make up, whatever. Some of you thought that you were being approached by grays, because maybe some of you were. But still, same agenda, same deal. Doesn't matter if you got the green ones or the gray ones, same thing. And he says this is, because this is so infiltrated to the very top, because the very tops are not even human, just like Alex Collier saying the people running the planet are not even us. They're not even human. Because we humans are the official owners of this planet. No matter what anybody else wants to say, yeah, Zeta Reticuli, bye-bye. Sirius, the dog star, bye-bye. Yeah, those are your stars. the sun that we called, the thing called the sun that we haven't, like, named anything other than sun, because we didn't know there were other ones. Our sun goes around our planet, and we own the thing. So, there are only a few of us that are actively engaged with this, but Howard says part of the way you're going to make this happen is by taking away their antidote. They tried to show you a book about how, oh, everyone sells eventually. You show them, Krista. You show them oh, you're going to sell? Oh, you show them what happens when they misuse nature herself. When nature herself rebels, because this is like what Tesla said with the sound of Gaia. The Earth is alive. Whether you want to think it or not, it's alive. That's why this stuff's happening. That's why I'm still alive. And the Iboga tree, it's got its roots deep into the earth, right? Well, shallow maybe, but it's got its roots into the earth. And all of the plants, all the animals that are on the earth, they know the earth's in trouble. The earth's in trouble. And those are the creator beings. These things are the creator beings. They're supposed to be taking care of us. Uh-oh. That's why so many people are having animals, different earth or elemental spirits talk to them, because they're wanting to get us back on track, or trying to help us help them. So, because the Iboga tree is literally rebelling against what is being done to it, you could say that Howard Lotsof himself is saying, take everything down, but also you could say that the tree itself is saying, I don't want to grow. I don't want to grow. This is our example from this from ET 101 is metal fatigue. The metal, what it explains is the metal is not becoming fatigued. The molecules are simply refusing to work. And I said that before reading it. I said, oh, the metal's not fatigued. Yeah, the molecules would be refusing to work under these conditions. And that's sure enough what the book said. So, if you're wondering, oh, why can't I germinate my Iboga seed? Because the seed is alive. It's reading your intent, what you want to do with it, who you want to feed off of. And it's saying, no, I'm here to help those humans. You're invaders. You're invaders on my planet. You're invaders on my planet. You're invaders on my planet. No, I'm not going to grow for you. Very, very much like that. So he says, when those elders see, when they ask, why are our new crops not growing? Why are not even the Voakonga growing? Why is it dying? This is a shrub. Why is it all dying? He says they'll know. They'll figure it out. And he says he says it again. They'll phrase it. There is a white woman who is the main one helping do this, even though the tree itself is protesting. And when that time comes, when they watch you, when they try to use a seer to see you, they'll see they can't do anything to you because of all the angels surrounding you to protect you. And when they see those angels there, and when they see spirits of ancestors saying, no, leave her, no, this is of God, this is of the divine, you cannot stop what is happening, this is meant to be. He says they're going to go back, they're going to come out of their trance and go to their different leaders and say, this, what's going on? There's a white girl, a white woman, but we can't touch her. This is something divine. This is something that is supposed to be. We have to ask, what is the meaning of this? But he also says they're aware of the global agenda by themselves. They don't need TV or anything. He says they're aware of the global agenda. And he says they're going to be able to put two and two together. Just like the people in Africa who knew that Ebola was there to kill them off. they just knew that instinctively, that it was a white man's thing to kill them off, and which it was. So, and it was also something used to try to kill me off, but my body killed it off. And that is 100% true, by the way. So, because of this, all of you Ibo idiots, I think I'm going to coin the term Ibo idiot, because all of you Ibo idiots are being idiots, sold yourselves out, sold your internal light source out to something else, letting yourselves be used like marionettes. Some of you were not even human to start with. It's coming crashing down. Yeah, Howard says it was like lickety split. That he didn't know it at the time, but he says like that Ibogaine got infiltrated like almost immediately. He says, now I can see it. Now I can see it in retrospect. Now I can see it. That the people I thought were my friends and all of this stuff, that it was just they were using me, and they were trying to infiltrate all of this and control it from the top down. Like a pyramid, just like you saw in your mind that it was like the Ibo pyramid structure, or whatever it was, before you understood about this global domination concept. So, you're going to pull the cornerstone out of the pyramid, and it's going to come toppling down. And then, he says, you're going to be receiving some emails from them. They're going to start talking to you once they realize that their entire livelihood has gone down the drain. And he says, say to them, oh, you mean you weren't paying attention? Did you think somehow that the Earth, Gaia herself, actually agreed with what you were doing? I did not do anything except agree with Gaia herself. This, he says, is the answer to provide back to them as to why did you screw over my business, or why did you stop my trees from growing, or why did you do this, why did you do that? And the answer is not, I did it. The answer is that the Earth herself did it, and simply needed the help of a human to push it all along. But Howard says the proof is already in how you guys have found you can't germinate your seeds. It's getting harder and harder and harder. He shows me a picture from South Africa, and the voice of Jenks saying, well, my garden wasn't exactly what I'd hoped. And Howard says those trees are all going to die. He just said that right now. He didn't say that before. He says every single one of those trees will die. They will not live to be saplings. They will all die, no matter what you do. They are protesting, and they will die. And actually, he's saying that many of them are happy to die to be part of this greater cause, because see, he's saying that the plants have this is also from Teal too, but he's saying the plants have little resistance to dying. Like, it's not like a person where you put a gun up to them and they say, I don't want to die. He's saying with the plants, and especially with the Iboga tree, that it understands so much of the cycle of life and death, that it understands that if it has to temporarily go like almost extinct to get the humans on track, it's okay with that. It says it says, I understand if I have to shrivel up my seed and die in order to correct a great wrong that has been committed. Or what I've heard some people say is that as they're going to pick different fruits or vegetables, that this was measured somehow, which I cannot remember, or a medium could have done it, but sensing the spirit leave before the actual seed would die, or before the plant would die by being plucked, its spirit would leave, because it would understand, oh, the gardener's here to pick me. Okay, I'm going to leave because the gardener's here to pick me, and my purpose is for the gardener to pick. The Iboga tree understands that its purpose is to help humanity in a kind of co-creative effort. And so if humanity is going off on some bizarre, screwed up tangent, well, the Iboga tree understands that it can't be around to keep on supporting that. It's one very smart plant. This plant's very smart. And he says, Krista, feel how smart that plant is. You don't have to just think to yourself alone that everything is going to fail because I say so. That plant is on your side. That plant knows that you see the vast picture that others are not. The picture other people are seeing is, oh, day to day, am I gonna be well? Am I gonna be well day to day? And he says, Krista, you know what it's like. You remember from your past life as Nietzsche what it's like to have to take morphine for residual chronic pain. But you're not thinking about that. In fact, you're thinking if your stuff just disappeared, you would sit there, hunker down, go through the withdrawal, and then in the middle of the withdrawal even, attempt to fight world domination or attempt to change the course of events. So everybody's thinking, oh, my wallet, oh, my spreadsheet, oh, my Excel, oh, my Linux, oh, all of this. Oh, my planet, hello. So if no one else is going to think, oh, my planet, Howard says this one can. This one's got the brains too, and all she needs is the encouragement. And he says, you guys obviously won't give her the encouragement then, so guess who will? All of us. And it's like a big band of people with their fists in the air like, rawr. Dead cop, my uncle saying, the cops assassinated me for this. John Lennon saying, well, I was assassinated for this. Bob Marley saying, no one knows I was assassinated for this except, a few people and you're one of them. Howard saying, I was basically assassinated because they just watched me die and wouldn't do anything about it. It's just like you, Krista. He would say, it's just like you, Krista, where there would be problems, but they would just try and sit there and watch you die, huh? And he says no to all that. So, I think we've had enough of that topic from Arcturian philosophy. We can discuss some other topics in the future, but yes, Howard wanted me to make it very, so clear and something that people could find. Something that, say, Krista, a year ago from now, if you'd have made a video of me talking to you and saying that big things were going to happen for you, what would happen if you looked at that video now with your long hair back then and everything, and how you looked so sick you could barely get out of bed, let alone having some kind of cleaned apartment by yourself? And I think to myself, if I did have something like that, well, wow, I could look at it and I could say, who would have known? Who would have known? So he's saying very clearly with this here, you are going to be able to go back and look. All of them will be able to go back and look. And also he says he says it's like, look them in the eye. You should feel ashamed for what you have done with my creation. So he wanted to pretend he was looking at everybody and saying, I'm looking you in the eye, saying, you should be ashamed for what you have done with my creation. You should be ashamed. And so, because of the intention of that creator, because we are all creators, he created the first, Patient's Bill of Rights, the first protocols, which I then kind of expanded my own off of, which I taught myself. Yeah, Randy, you didn't train me if you figured that out because you're being a coward. and changed your phone number so that I can't actually get a hold of you because, oh, Krista survived. Oh shit. Oh shit, Krista survived. And she's going to survive. She's going to be alive, and she's going to be on YouTube. So she's going to tell the whole world about it. You know, if the news doesn't want to report it, I will. I'll be my own news reporter and my own historian, as most of the famous philosophers were, because they were reporting stuff that no one wanted to believe at the time, or that no one was capable of believing at the time, or that everyone wanted to shove under the rug at the time. So, Howard says, I really admire your quest for truth. And no, I didn't want to. He says, I didn't want to have to take it to this level. He says, I didn't want to have to. I didn't want to have to bring it to this kind of level. But you leave me no choice. That's what he's saying. I didn't want to have to escalate it this far to actually make all of your conferences fail. He says also conferences failing. He says you're going to experience problems in your travel. You're going to experience problems as if it was Mercury retrograde for all of you individually all the time. Except what he made the comment about me. He made a comment about me that she's beyond astrology, or that something that Cryon said once, that the newer children, or those with newer DNA or different DNA, are not going to be affected by the movements of the planets as you used to watch out for. But he says because there are those who have sold into the dark side, become complicit with world domination, become complicit with a reptilian mind control agenda, or a gray Zeta Reticulan mind control agenda. Because of that, they're sure going to have to watch out, because they're mirrors and you're a candle. When the candle comes around, the mirrors can hold up as many mirrors as they want, but they can never mimic the candle. They can never become the candle unless they drop their mirror on the ground and come to you and say, hello, I have a candle, but it's not lit. I blew it out on purpose because those people with the mirrors over there, they told me they'd give me $100 if I did it, and if I blew out my candle so that they could have it. And I didn't understand at the time. I just thought my life was horrible and they were giving me all the answers to it. I didn't really know exactly what I was doing. And at first I thought I liked it. But now I know that it's wrong. Now I can see it. But he says it will take intimidation for them to understand this. It will take them seeing your power to understand this. So he says it will take them seeing that all of their, wow, this is almost like it's happening right now, and branching out in some sort of web. Like all of you guys that make webs or whatever, it's like Howard knew about this or had studied it at some point, and it's like he's creating some kind of web. Like Spider-Woman's web, except it's Spider-Man. Spider-Man! Cool! Spider-Man's web, like he's trying to make some kind of web, showing me how everything is interconnected, and showing me how there's this one central point, and how that explodes and rips through time and space, and then ripples out through all of these other avenues of all of the other people. And then, he has a comment, which is, you guys liked a pyramid structure, right? I mean, so that way, if you take out the capstone and the cornerstone, everything falls over. Something along those lines. And also he says, there's some Jewish symbology behind that. And he says, I would know because I was raised Christian, the cornerstone and the capstone symbology. But your pyramid, cornerstone, and capstone, it's like, psh. So I believe I will simply allow this energy to continue to spiral out. He says it's the way it works is it spirals out like like a frequency. But so you all know there's a tulpa named Howard Lotsof, meaning the dead guy Howard Lotsof, who